Paintball nerd.
Today's guest on Paintball Nerds Fun 5 has been playing paintball since 1992. He went pro with the Bushwackers in 2000. He's played for Aftershock. He's played for LTZ. He played a decade with the Ironmen, winning double World Cup victories in 2007 and 2008. He's co-founder of the Destiny organization. He's coach for Destiny. He's coach for the Ironmen. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the show, Mr. Mike Paxson. Mike, I'm excited to have you on, dude. I have a lot of history with you. Actually, my first pro win ever was with you.
Yeah.
And that was with the men.
The men. That was so much fun.
Commanders Cup.
Yeah. Yeah, that was a fun time. You know, it was funny how we were, it's kind of all the teams were kind of winding down. No one really wanted to do anything. And, and then Todd Adamson and a couple other guys started talking about things. And, hey, let's get some guys together and just go play and have fun. And we're like, yeah, sure, that sounds great.
Dude, I didn't even know who was on the squad until I showed up at the event and he's playing with us and he's playing with us. Like, oh, cool.
Oh, that's gonna be fun.
Dude, it's so funny because I remember Pete was like, "Hey, you're playing with us too?" I'm like, "Yeah." And he's like, "I think we got actually a pretty good chance of winning this thing." I'm like, no, probably not.
I used to crack up too because Pete, me and Pete were just about to fight at World Cup. We're leaving there, and he's like, fuck you, Mike, and I'm like, yeah, whatever. And then all of a sudden, we show up there, and he's like, oh my gosh. And then all of a sudden at the end of the event, we're having the best time. And now we're like best friends. It's funny.
Yeah. What were you guys gonna fight about?
Blake spun, shot him, blew his lips to bits, and then I stood up and I was like, oh, look at you. Blew him to bits. And then,
oh, my God.
And then, so, I mean, he came back, his jaw was, and he had to go do that photo shoot, and his face was this big. And this side was bleeding. And he's like, you guys, bad. I'm like, shut up, Pete. And then wrestled around a little bit. And then the very next time he comes to Ironmen, and we all mixed up and had a great time.
Dude, that's how best friendships are made right there.
Yeah, right? Bleeding each other to death. It's the way.
Dude, that's what it's all about, man. Paintball's about awesome memories, and you've got a lot of them. You've won a lot of stuff.
Yeah. We, it's funny. I really didn't even think about it, and then my daughter starts hanging all these medals up. She's like, "Do you mind if I hang all these medals up?" I'm like, "Yeah." There's like a whole box of them over there in the closet, And so we started pulling these medals out, and she was actually going through them, and I started laughing, I'm like, well, let's put all the first places up first, and we'll leave all that rest of that box of second and thirds down in there. So it was funny, yeah. But it's good.
Well, do you have a memory that really sticks out for you above the rest?
Oh gosh, I got tons, but yeah, I mean, some of the best was one of the wins that we had against the Russians, where it was me and Miko shooting out of the back center. And Billy, remember, hurt his leg, so he's behind us telling us exactly where they're going. And they couldn't even make the first prop from the back center. We were just incinerating them going out that way. And I remember just that whole thing. And then literally having the Russian coach lose his mind, come yelling at us. And like, what are you guys doing? How is this, how is it possible? And I always thought that was pretty cool. It was just like, that was, they had no answer for what we were doing.
Is this World Cup 2007 when you guys won in the finals?
I think that was 2007. Yeah. Yeah. And it was really, fun. Cause I mean, gosh, we were playing every point, going in there, if I wasn't playing, Miko was playing, and then I would sit one, he would play, and then we'd play together. And that was just, the rotation going, and it was awesome. It was just some of the most fun paintball I've ever played, So,
that was an amazing victory too. I was watching that from the sidelines. Yeah. That was a year after I retired.
Yep.
Retired, right?
Retired, yeah. Weird, you're coming right back into the woods. Exactly. What is it, 2 weekends? 2 weekends, and we're gonna go run around and look stupid.
Oh man, I can't wait. Who's on the squad? I heard Brad McCurley's playing with us.
Yep, we got Brad. I don't know if we can disclose all this information. Other people
really? Okay.
Listening. No, I'm just joking. We got LP. We got Meter. We got Doc Holliday, Todd Adamson. I mean, we can stop right there. I mean,
okay.
We got Rennick. Who else do we got? We got a few other few other good names coming, but yeah, I'd say I think Frazier's coming.
Oh,
So
sweet.
yeah, so I mean we got a good little squad running around, so it should be fun.
Dude, you've played with some amazing players, and I'm not gonna make you pick one. Actually,
Hmm.
yeah, I will. Fuck that.
Yeah,
So,
yeah. Put pressure. Put the
who's
pressure on.
your who is your favorite player to watch? Let's start there. To
Ooh,
watch.
to watch a watching player. God, man, I got a handful of them I used to really
All
like
right.
watching. And remember too, I hate watching paintball. I mean,
Yeah.
it's one of the dumbest things on the face of the earth. But it's but
It's not as bad as watching baseball.
no, yeah, well, exactly. I mean, baseball. I mean, unless you're at the field watching it, I'm over it. There's no way that's going on TV. But
Yeah. Yeah.
the people to watch. I mean, I remember back as younger, even way back, I used to love to watch Rocky play. I was
Mm.
just thought, he was, and I mean, it was funny because even as a kid, we were hanging out and having fun, and and it was like, just doing stuff. And I used to just love watching him play, watching, stuff. I mean, even in the push video, when you watch him jumping over, I'm standing in the sidelines watching him play.
No kidding.
Yeah, I'm in the background watching him play that event. Yeah, doing all that stuff. So, it's like that was definitely one player that I always really liked watching play. Played against him down at SC, different stuff that I was just like, man, good dude, great, great person. And I was lucky enough that, we ended up moving close to each other. I mean, we'd go fishing every weekend and stuff afterwards. But yeah, I mean, even back, even when we played, in the woods and stuff, I was like, God, look at that little dirt devil getting in there, getting down, 400 years
Dude.
old, just getting at it. you
Dude, I'd
know,
say like 90% of the time I ask that question, I get Rocky. And
yeah,
it's for good reason, because
yeah,
you know, anybody who's seen push knows about that move, like, and what
yeah,
it did to you, like what it did to you when you saw it. But
yeah.
dude, talk about like what it was like to see that in person.
Yeah, it was amazing because you're seeing the battle go back and forth, and as things are kind of moving across, and then all of a sudden you're like, oh wait, how's this gonna play out? Where's he going? Like, and then it did it, and everyone just the whole sideline erupted. It was really
Yeah.
cool, and and at the time, I remember people were like, well, can you even do that? Like, is that legal? And all this, there was just a whole bunch of things going around either side. It was like, who cares? That was awesome, and
Yeah.
so yeah, it was just that was awesome for me and just all around. Modern day, gosh, even since watching him play as a kid and back, always liked watching Tyler play. Always felt like he was just working, shaking, and moving, and like, man, how do you look around that much and not get shot? Like, it's like,
Yeah.
you know. But now that he's bigger and taller, it's funny. It's like I'm like, it's like you can look around everywhere and see
Yeah, he
everything.
can look over cans.
Yeah, exactly. So I mean, it's cool to watch him develop from what he was as a kid. I mean, I remember just having some great thing. I'm like, God, this kid's so young, and we were young too. But it was he just looked young and acted young and everything
He
else,
was a
and
child, really.
child, and just
Yeah.
playing at the top of the level, and he's been playing at the top of the level forever. Which is awesome.
Yeah.
So. I always really like watching him and just watching how he moves, you know.
How
So,
about best person you ever played with? Like, who's your favorite teammate?
mm. team teammate, it's got to go to Miko. It's funny. I mean, for a while there, we had the same gear bag. We only had one gear bag, and because we'd be working and different stuff. So I'm just like, I got all the gear. Don't worry about it. Just show up, and we'll just start thumbing through stuff. So it was funny.
That's
So.
cute.
Yeah, right. Like, oh, I got all this stuff. Don't worry, honey. I'll have all your stuff laid out for you. But I mean, it was easy. It was easier that way. He didn't have to think
Yeah.
about it. He could continue to work and then just come over and play because he enjoyed playing so much. But he also had to work more too.
Yeah. Did you pack his lunch?
Yeah, pack his lunch, get
Give him a
all
little
his
kiss
stuff
on the
ready.
forehead.
Yeah, go in there, honey. Get it together. Let's just try to shoot someone on the break. We'll see what happens after that.
Yeah.
but playing, but that was more just playing with teammate. just kind of all around, like, just, oh, we're going to go out and have a couple drinks after, after the day, everything, just around good friend. People to play with that were just magical on the field. God, you got to still give it to Oliver.
Yeah.
There was a play we used to have. He would just call it out 5 seconds before the play went, and he's like, Mike, beast on the break. And I'm like, okay. And I would step out wide and shoot for him, and he would run to the 40 or 50 Dorito and be standing shooting the whole way in. And you're like, oh, that's interesting. No one would shoot you running then shooting there. Oh, that's cool. And the point would either last 30 seconds either way.
Yeah.
But it was, it's just his ability to read stuff. And even on his off day, the amount of people he could shoot on his off day was amazing. You get him to where he goes on fire, and now you have magic.
Yeah.
So everyone always used to talk, oh, he was so hot and cold. I'm like, well, yeah, but even on his cold day, still shooting 2 people a game, a person a game. It's never like, the only worst thing is if on the off day you're having that and penalties, then you start to work down.
Well, on the cold days, he's usually trying stuff. So
Right.
Yeah.
Just dialing it in. And it's funny to listen when you're like, oh yeah, he's just trying to get dialed for Sunday. He's not even worried about the game we're playing right now. He's like, oh, we're just getting dialed for Sunday. I'm like, okay, I like that. Understandable. But it's funny how I remember we would play teams, and they weren't looking at like, oh, this, they were already counting our game as a loss. They were just praying that the spread wasn't too wide. So they, and I'm like, how do you go to a match and you're just praying that the team doesn't beat the shit out of you? And that was never in my head.
Right.
It didn't matter who we played. I didn't even know who we were playing half the time, but but most of the time, we could play checkers right now. I'm not going to lose.
Yeah.
But and then you looked at other people, and I'm like, man, no wonder you never won a tournament. It's like, because you were already ready to lose the second you walked on the field. Yeah. I'm like, okay, all right, well, that's an easy win. We'll just chalk that one up, But yeah, it was always
funny, dude, because winning is like very much so. You have to know how to win, right? It's not just about being a good paintball player or good at something. It's having the winning mentality, like winning it before you've even begun, right?
Right. Exactly. And I think that will too. Just doesn't and I think it relates to everything. People are like, going on, and if they don't have that will to like, well, I'm just not going to give up, or I'm not, you're going to have to beat the losing, beat me to death before I lose. You're like, all right, you won. You definitely won that one. So.
And I think there's, it's funny because like for some reason, and I've never been able to explain this before, but for some reason, winning is easier after the first time you've done it.
I could definitely see that. Yeah. And, because, we definitely, like on the Whackers, God, we got beat down a lot. But, there was definitely, that's the one thing I liked about a lot of the guys on our team, were there was so much drive to win, and I think the thing about it was we got picked apart so fast. You never could have that real team, or it was just like a learning platform. That's all they used.
It was like a farm team.
It was a farm team. It was a farm team for all the good pro teams that had money, and it was interesting because there were so many people that went through there, fast, and we'd have really good teams sometimes, and that was always the thing. They said they never knew what team was coming out,
Yeah.
So it was kind of interesting, So.
Cool. Yeah. Well, Paxson, you got a favorite piece of equipment or something that's like a superstitious item that you keep in your gear bag or in your paintball closet?
I used to always we always used to joke around about having force fields for headbands, and I used to give away certain headbands that, like, so Greg Stewart's used to have one for almost whole career. I think like 5 years before he went, he's like, dude, this thing's dying. I need a new one. So I went and dug through an old bag, got him a new headband for that, and he would sew it underneath the other ones. Same thing with Meeks. Meeks has an old dye headband that he still has that, that we wear and mess around. I have a few, just in the bag, different things. But also too, I have one jersey and meaningful or real, guns from almost every team I played on. Still.
Really?
I got an old DM. I got an old Cocker from when we won with the Whackers. Got a Whacker jersey. Got one of my first DMs, the DM4s with Aftershock. Still
Oh
got
my
that, and then my
gosh.
Aftershock jersey. Yeah, I got a LTZ green LTZ DM6.
Dude.
Yeah, got a. I have one of my last I think it's M1 or M2, that is the green fade to black with the Ironmen logos on it. Yeah.
You got a bunch
So
of paintball nerd stuff
yeah,
hidden
I got a
away.
ton of it. Yeah, exactly.
You
Just
gotta
got
you
a
gotta
whole.
have B like take pictures and post them or make a video or something, man.
Right, right. Yeah,
Share it
it's
with the
cool.
community, you know?
I know, right? Shoot, I just gave away because someone really wanted one. I had a an old Navarone cocker for.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, I forget who wanted it. Someone was like, "Dude, I played on that team. I really want that." And I'm like, "Yeah, for sure, man." I'm like, "Here, and got it all working and sent it to him." So yeah, it
How'd you
was
get
really
a
cool.
Navarone cocker?
It was sitting at die, holding paperweight. It was a paperweight. I'm like, that's
Huh.
disgusting. So I stole it, and then it was just a raw body. But no, I asked Billy. I go, Billy, hey, man, that thing's been sitting there forever. He's like, yeah, sure. He's like, do whatever you want. So I made a pump out of it for a long time, had it,
Nice.
and then finally turned into a cocker for this guy. Yeah.
Dude, it's
So.
funny that you talked about force shields because when I interviewed B, she told
Hmm.
me that her favorite item was like this little bracelet that you made with the same
Oh yeah.
concept. You're like, this is a force field, and if you wear this, like
Never
no
get
one can
shot.
shoot you. And she
Nobody
bought it.
gets.
Like she's
Yeah, bought in.
she thought it was real.
Yeah.
And I didn't
Yeah.
know you did that for other people too. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Can
Yeah.
I have one? Can you make me a force shield?
Dude, I'll bring you one to the next event, man. Well, I'm gonna need you. I'm
Nice.
gonna need you with a force field. But
Awesome.
yeah, yeah. And for a while, like some of the kids on the Ironman, we used to do it with them. Like I remember Crunchy was a big one. He was like, and then we started another one. We used to tie bandanas on our ankles, and
I
we used
still
to
do that.
joke. Remember the Salamander crew?
Before that, it was with my Steven Pitts and Goat
Yep.
and this guy
Yes.
named Boomer who's not around anymore,
Yep.
and we called it the Crooked Crew
Yeah. Crooked crew. Yeah. Same thing.
because
Yeah.
we just bonus ball people.
Yep. Yep.
Um, but I still wear the bandana on my ankle to this day.
Yep.
It's funny.
Brandon Lamson used to do it for a while too. He was
Yeah.
trying to get in the Crooked crew. Yeah.
That's awesome.
We'll have to bring that back. I'll start bringing some more bandanas in. I forgot about that.
Let's do
Get the
it, dude.
Crooked crew going.
Let's do it at out Florida
I
with the
will.
bandanas on the ankles.
I know. I'll have to dig in the
Make it
old
a
bag and
thing.
bring out some old ones.
There we go.
Yeah.
So, Mike, what advice would you give to someone who wants to get to the top of professional paintball?
Man, it seems, I don't want to say it seems easier than, I think it's easier and harder. Does that make sense?
Yeah,
Back in the day, I think when we were doing the full NXL, we were allowed 15 guys on a roster. And so you could have those, hey man, that kid's really fast, man, we can work with him. And there was a lot more, and there was just a lot more paintball being played. So I
mm,
think back then it was a little bit easier, and people were willing to work with you more. I think now it's so, I mean, like I said, we're going to try to cut to 10. Probably only 8 are going to play when it gets serious. So you look at how many people that are just cut out of playing professional paintball. I know there's more teams now too, but it's not like you can just have someone there like, hey, I really like this guy. I think he's going to be something. So
right.
that's why I always think it's hard for those farm teams too, because they're the same thing. Now they want to take their whole farm team. It's not a farm team anymore. It's a semi-pro team that's trying to work their way up.
Hmm.
So it's either one way you're going to grind and work your way up with that team, trying not to get picked apart by pro teams, which is amazing, or you just got to get lucky and fall into the right practice, look great, and hopefully go in. But either
Yeah.
way, it's going to take a ton of work. I mean, one of the kids we were talking to out at the Ironman practice, and he's like, "Oh, well, I really haven't been practicing too much." Blah blah. I said, "Really?" I said, "That's interesting." I said, "I used to shoot a skid of paint in the off season." I go, I really don't care if you have or haven't been working. This is what we're working about here.
Yeah.
I go, if you want to be on the, you want to be still stay on the team, you got to make sure you're at the top.
Yeah.
So I just think, really, honestly, if you want it bad enough, you can go get it. It's hard to make those connections to where you're like, to definitely to get seen, right? Because I mean, it does take that where, hey, Mike, is there any way I can make it out to that practice, and be like, well, yeah, I can definitely bring you, but honestly, I don't think you're going to make the team,
Hmm.
and but there, there's your shot, you're in, and even if you just kept grinding and saying, hey, I mean, I remember there was times where it was like, man, we had a couple kids where they were just sitting on the sidelines the whole day waiting to play 1 or 2 points out there on the field. Just sitting there waiting, sitting there waiting. You don't see that as much anymore. You know,
Yeah.
they're more like, well, I deserve it, or I this. Well, no, you don't.
Hmm.
You know, or you have those kids that are like, well, don't you know who I am? I'm like, no, I really
No.
don't. I barely know the kids on my team. I'm like, what do you think? I sit around and watch you play? No,
Yeah.
you know. So it's funny. I think a lot of that is that more, you owe me or that. And I'm like, man, that just doesn't work. So and I mean, and you look at how long some of those people in Dynasty been sitting there. It's like you get one of the kids that are lucky enough to slide into a spot to just go be a workhorse, and then
Mm.
hopefully eventually slide into a spot of, hey, you have a name. Okay, cool. All right, let's get you, keep you working. So I think it's awesome.
Yeah, man. I don't know where the entitlement came from. I don't think it's just
Yeah.
exclusive to paintball. I think it's
No.
everywhere.
Yeah, I think it's slowly sliding. I mean, if you're given a ton and never really having to work for stuff,
There
it's
it
just
is.
how it
Yeah.
is. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. There's this old analogy. Uh, if you give a bum $1 a day, every time you see him, every time you walk by the corner, you give him $1. And then after 2 weeks, you decide not to, what are they going to say?
Where's my dollar?
Where's my dollar?
Yeah.
So it's
Well,
easy to create that sense of entitlement.
yeah.
So I think that's exactly what's happening in the world, man.
Yeah.
Unfortunately.
Yeah.
But we,
You know,
at the end of the day, we we shoot paint filled gel caps at each other for a living.
exactly. Shoot gummy
That's
bears
that's
at
what
each
we
other.
do. you know. So we're
Yeah.
incredibly fortunate. There's a lot to be thankful for. But Paxton, what would you say that you're most thankful for that paintball's given you?
Well, I mean, shoot, even if you just look at, I mean, just real easy basic, shoot, I met my wife and have 2 beautiful kids through just paintball.
Yeah.
I mean, I mean, the chances of us meeting any other way would have been probably impossible. She lived in Florida, I lived in, Cali.
Way out of
But
your league too.
way out of my league. I'm still shocked she's still with me. But I'm just about to tell her like, hey, so I got to go coach, but on the way down, I'm going to go on a ski trip with Miko, and I'm like, can't wait to see the face.
Yeah.
Wait, what?
And
Wait,
then we're gonna go
explain.
fishing.
Yeah, and then we're gonna go fishing when I get there. Explain again. All right, we'll talk about it later. I just write thing on the calendars, and then she's like, "Wait, what's that?"
Well, dude,
But
it's
no,
it's a
she's
huge blessing though to have like
yeah.
your spouse that you share your life with, like your professional
It's
and your fun life with.
we've gotten to go to so many places and do so many things that never would have been able to do, and yeah, and it was awesome. It was a really cool ride that we got to do, and we're still doing it. So it's
Yeah.
awesome. It's
And you guys
just
have such a huge reach in paintball. Like I
yeah.
think a lot of people don't know that you co-founded Destiny.
Yeah, yeah. It was funny how we were sitting there and B's like, I really want to do this team. I said, well, do it. And we're sitting there and going over stuff, and and I'm like, I always used to joke. I'm like, I go, well, if you're thinking of a team for a female team, I go, think of like the high names out there, Destiny, Aftershock, Ironmen, I'm like, throw, Dynasty, blah, 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 we were going on, I'm like, Dynasty, like, I go there, at that time, we were going through it, and I was like, I go, and then it was funny because I'm like, I go, if you're really thinking about it, it's like, it's your destiny, and she's like, oh, or no, I started joking around. I said, Destiny's Childs. I go, you're like Destiny's Child. You're great, da da da, like that. And then she's like, well, what about just Destiny? I'm like, oh, well, that sounds even better, just joking.
It's a great name.
Yeah, and we had the girls together, and they were all going through names, and had this other name, and I'm like, oh, that sounds horrible. I'm like, we got to come up with something else. But and then they went and played Huntington Beach, and it was done. It was it. They were hooked.
And I heard Destiny it has a big sponsorship shift for 2023.
Yes, they do. They're so it's going to be good. They're really I think all the girls are looking forward to it. It'll be a whole new look. So it's going to be interesting. I'm really excited to see how it goes out. I'm really trying to get them to, it's hard because Bea does so much, and she's getting, she gets, I'm like, always like, I'm like guaranteed she's going to be on the phone, or, she's on the phone 24/7 with them, trying to get everybody, and it's, what's funny, it's not even really the women's pro team, it's all the other teams she has. So she's just running around, going crazy. And so I'm really hoping the other girls are going to they're starting to take over more of the responsibility for the pro team and get stuff and do stuff and, and really organize a lot more of it. So it's really cool because they're kind of going to start to roll into that, taking over more responsibility on the team, and maybe even eventually taking a team, handing it down to one of them eventually, so it'd be nice.
Are you allowed to talk about any of the sponsorship changes?
I don't know. I don't know on that. It's so funny. Like my 50% of the team is more the coaching and the getting the team to play good. B works on all the other stuff. I just kind of like, hey, well, maybe we should call this guy to, talk about that. And she's like, oh yeah, okay, great. Set it up. Cool. Here, talk to him.
So all right, we'll just keep our eyes peeled then.
Yeah, I don't quite know. I'm always on the back burner of other stuff, anyways.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right on, Paxson. Well, dude, thank you so much for your time here. Is there anything that you'd like to part with for the paintball community?
I can't wait for the mechanical tournament. That's gonna be a lot of fun. It's funny. I get super excited about that stuff. I always think it's fun. It's almost like an old reunion. But exactly, I can't wait to see you there and go play and down in Florida. We're gonna have a good time.
Right on, brother. Thank you.
Yeah.